Let's do it. I'll do that. Put that on there. Into that one. Oh, it's not good. My YouTube's hung now. My internet's hung. Great. Hopefully it's all working. Can you can hear me? Right, cool. Just waiting for YouTube to catch up. Yep, it's caught up. Right, hello everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Today we have Stuart with us, who is licensing guru. Like, you've been working how long? 20 odd years in licensing, did you say, Stuart? Longer?
20 years, yeah.
20 years.
Correct,
in
yeah,
licensing.
20 years.
So we thought we get a lot of questions about licensing and things, which I answer to the best of my knowledge. But we thought we might as well get a bona fide expert on. So John's got a few questions. We're gonna have a general chat, but then you guys can ask some questions as well, and Stuart will answer the best he can with some relative knowledge. Well, not relative knowledge, loads of knowledge. Not relative knowledge. He knows everything. And then we'll discuss other stuff and jerseys and things. And me and John are wearing 2 new jerseys. Say hello, John.
Yep.
We're wearing 2 new jerseys, which we can show you, which are coming up soon. And yeah, it'll be an interesting one for sure. So I'm going to hand over to John because John's got questions, and I'll just jump in the conversation when John's asked the questions and interject with stuff. Or we've had a pretty good discussion prior to this anyway. So John, shoot me your questions. Let's do it. Oh, actually, first. Sorry. Hang on. So I introduced Stuart. Is Segal licensing you work for, isn't it, Stuart? I should have said that at the beginning.
Yes.
About your company and your business and promote yourself.
Not a worry.
Yeah, and Kevin's Stuart's the guy that manages Kevin's license with us and works with Kevin as well. Hence why he's wearing a movies jersey today. So sorry, I should have done that right at the beginning. Right, John, shoot. I'm going to be quiet and I'll inject.
All right. So in our last video, we talked about how we were going to stop doing customs, how we were going to make only these licensed collector's jerseys. We're going to get rid of the numbered tags. There was some licensing reasons, but there was also some catching up for production reasons. We tried to do some licensing information, but neither of us, Andy or I, are experts in that at all. So we thought we'd get Stuart to come on. He has more information significantly than both of us. But recently, Andy went to a licensing show and spoke to many licensors, none of which we've gotten an actual deal with yet, but some of them are pretty close. Some of them look like they could be fantastic for us. I do know that with Stuart's help, the boss was recently able to get us a license for Godzilla. So that is going to... we haven't worked up any designs for sure yet. We just got it, I think, the day we did the last live stream. I think we got the confirmation. So that's definitely something that'll be coming. But yeah, let's get into some of this with Stuart. So from our perspective, at least what we know is, well, in this case, Andy went to the licensing show. He spoke to different companies that licensed
of people. It was good. It was good fun.
Yeah, he had a lot of fun. But I think Stuart was saying there are 3 price. I'm going to let him.
3 key terms. 3 key terms.
Yeah, there's a lot of complicated, but essentially there's like a minimum guarantee. There's a royalty rate.
And there's an advance.
And there's an advance for all of these licensing opportunities that we get. They can be various amounts. They're not fixed. They can be anywhere from a few $1,000s to 6 figures. And we've had somebody try to offer us a 6-figure deal, and we definitely couldn't take that. It's way too expensive. But yeah, let's go. So first off, the minimum guarantee for any license
let's take one step back and kind of like what is licensing. So licensing would be the kind of you're borrowing somebody else's IP or equity to increase the value of yours. So in your case, like if you're selling a blank shirt, there'd probably be a minimum audience. But when you put a logo on it and the different pieces, then there is a value. So for that value, you're going to pay a percent, which is a royalty, for the benefit of being able to work with that brand. Different brands have different royalty rates. And the royalty rates really are dependent on also the category, and you guys are direct to consumer, so it's it'd be different for direct to consumer versus what it would be if you were selling into a retail chain, just because it's different that way. So how we look at it is you kind of look at what the value of what we think from a forecast perspective would be, how much revenue you would accrue with a license, right?
Okay.
And then we're asking, the industry asks the licensee, you guys in that case would be the licensee, the other party would be the licensor. They would ask for a minimum guarantee. Basically, if you're going to borrow our equity that has value to it, you have to pay for that. So you guys, when we started working on the Kevin Smith business, first of all, Kevin wore jerseys, and he was a fan of yours. So it's kind of an easy play to go through. The other benefit is I am Canadian. So kind of grew up with hockey jerseys my whole life, right? So so that's kind of an easy piece. So we are kind of looking through who would make a quality type of jersey that Kevin's fans would like, that Kevin would like, and the fact that you would be easy to work with and kind of understand it. So kind of work out our deal terms from there. And as we go through, there is a percentage of revenue that comes through. And it's a pretty small percentage of revenue that's coming through that gets paid to the licensor for that case, right? So it's really meant to be an opportunity for, to get more merchandise into the marketplace. You guys are unique, and that's how I look at you guys, as unique. To go through it, of course, now I'm getting a spam phone call on my home line. So there'd be an advance against the guarantee, and then a royalty. Hold on 1 second. Sorry.
No worries.
We'll fill time. We'll fill the gap.
I like when it says call from likely spam. Okay. So so that's kind of minimum guarantee in the advance. So those are the dollars perspective. And then for every jersey you're selling or merch that you're selling, a percentage of that in royalties, or that's how you kind of build through your advance guarantee. So the guarantee would be a floor. So that's the minimum guarantee you'd pay. But if you sold a jersey like the two you're wearing now, and you sell a ton of them, more than you expected, the revenue keeps going, right? The more you make, the more the licensor makes as well in a percentage.
Up to now, we've been doing a limited amount. Like with the Kevin Smith line, we were doing 420. Yeah. With most of our other jerseys, we're doing somewhere between 250 and 300. That's changed recently. We just decided to stop doing the numbered tags so that we can reprint some of these, designs that are fantastic that people keep asking about. So I think that might play a bit of a difference.
Yeah, that kind of thing. That kind of thing was like the discussion we had was like how maximize the designs as much as possible over a period of time, rather than kind of like shit cannon them after 300 and then they never happen again. And then, but like people request it.
Some designs are just iconic, and people want them again and again. So it just seems such a waste to like make that beautiful movies jersey that you're wearing, and then we kind of throw it in the garbage after that because it can't be used anymore. Like,
yeah.
So it just made sense to print them more often. So that covers minimum guarantee, royalty rates. Usually there's a contract length with these. I think they go anywhere. Well, for us, I think they're anywhere from a year to 2 years. I'm sure they have longer contract rates. Some of them are even open. I know somebody that Andy tried to deal with had an open rate, would let us go as long as we wanted, as long as we paid their minimum guarantee.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we tend to
and people think that there's like an exact science to the business, and there really isn't. Every company treats it a little bit differently. Like we have a couple companies who like doing 3-year terms.
Yeah.
I know we are working on a program now in the collectible space, and the licensee wants to do it as a 5-year term. So like there's kind of like rules of thumb, but rules of thumb aren't law, right? So it's kind of like it depends, right? So I know in working in other businesses in the past, if we couldn't kind of come to a deal on a 2-year term, then well, what about a 3-year term if we do it this way? Other contracts are some companies treat it where you pay for each year. So you may have a 2-year contract, but there's a minimum guarantee against each year, and they don't cross, right? So you could have had $100 guarantee for year one and sold only $20 worth of goods, and then year two you could do $10,000. But you still got to pay that minimum guarantee for the first year.
Yeah.
We actually have sort of an issue like that too, because it takes us a long time for us to produce jerseys or to get art approved just to get it into production. There are times where like we get a deal for 2 years and we'll have a design done in 2 months, and it will take 6 to 8 months after approvals to get that done.
Yeah.
So in the first year, we might only get one jersey out, but then in the second year, we've got 6 ready to go.
Yeah, and that's part of the issue in terms of, from a personal perspective, I do like giving fast approvals. Listen, on a Kevin business, Kevin's
great because it's awesome. Like, send it, I get a message back saying, yeah, it's approved. It's like, oh my god. And I think like when some of the other stuff that we send, like I think we've got a new Lebowski jersey coming, and I've only just heard about that one being approved.
That just got approved yesterday.
Yesterday they got approved, but that's been. But there's a lot that like Rebellion, where we work with 2000 AD, they're pretty quick on approvals as well. They're pretty swift, which is good.
The contractual language is usually 14 business days.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it depends on the company, right? So my philosophy is, from a licensing agent's perspective, the more money you make, the more money our client and we're going to make.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we do this quicker?
Yeah.
Right?
And the faster we can prove it, the faster we can get it out.
Yeah, exactly that. So there's still, I think.
Yeah, so in that case, it's, most of the credit goes to Kevin Smith, who is just one of the greatest partners in the world, where he'll, I will send him something, and I kind of tease people sometimes that it took me longer to send the text to him to get it approved than it did for him to approve it. So I'm the delay. Now the whole thing was done in 2 hours versus 14 days, but I was doing something else. I was on a conference call for an hour and a half, sent him a note an hour and a half in, and got the response back in 20 minutes, right? So that's an important part too, as you guys are going through, and then rights that they have, right? So in our case, I know we're going to be doing a quick stop jersey with Hicks on the back that you guys announced.
Already done.
So that's an example of kind of like, oh, what's another way? Because there was so many people who love that jersey.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the ones kind of like, wow, that's kind of like, it's in the movie. Like, think of it, that whole relationship we had, that whole first scene in Clerks 3 is your jerseys, right? It's kind of cool.
Andy actually went to go see that in the theater, watching the jerseys he designed be on screen.
Yeah, it was good. It was very cool. My friend of mine, who's a big Kevin Smith fan, and he was sitting next to me, and every couple of minutes he's nudging me, going, "That's yours, that's yours, that's yours," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool." And then as it went on, it was a movie one. He went, "You did that as well?" And I was like, "I did work on that one as well." It's it's pretty cool. And then I made him stay right to the end, so we could just see geeky jerseys written in the titles at the end as well.
Yeah,
it was very satisfying.
So I think Kevin's an example of one of the best partners you can have, because he understands it, and he likes licensing. Like Kevin's come with me to lots of retail meetings, and I'm trying to be nice, and some of the partners I've worked with in the past, we were like, oh, it'd be great if we could have that personality to just say, hey, retailer, thanks for supporting us. Literally a 4-second clip. Kevin came with me to retailers, right? Live and in person. And, when people wanted pictures afterwards, Kevin stayed and took pictures with every single employee.
That's pretty cool.
At the head office, right? So he's kind of the gold standard for that, but there's lots of great companies who do a great job, and their fan base is very, very on to, everything they're doing. And we were kind of talking before this is you guys said it's mostly, it's geeky jersey, so it's geeky things, but I think people, lots of different things for them, they could be geeky about, right? So
Yeah,
it could be, I think,
about anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
So longer-winded answer to the question, so I apologize.
Our boss actually tasked me a while ago with coming up with new Kevin Smith ideas, and I have 15 of them. So at some point, I think we get to have a meeting. At some point,
John's got a lot.
Discuss some of those for new jerseys.
Just means more work for me.
Well,
potentially.
I vote for something from Yoga Hosers. Pure Canadiana. The A2Go would be super.
The Brodsky or something.
It's like the Tusk one. Like I one of the guys I use, Fabian, drew the walrus and stuff in Tusk, because I started to do it, and it was just creeping me out looking at all the reference to draw it and stuff, and I'm like, I can't keep looking at it because it's creeping me out. So I said to Sean, can Fabian do it? Because I know he'll do a great job, and he did do a fantastic job. And the shoulder patches and stuff look absolutely amazing. But like I was just like, I can't. It was really freaking me out just looking at the walrus. I was like, I can't keep looking at it. It's bothering me. And I'm
but wait till you go deep against Godzilla, like all the heroes and villains in that piece, because we have a company that we do hot sauce with for Godzilla, and we're like, wow, that's another character. Like, there's just so much in there that could play, and I think people who get it, that fan base definitely goes geeky for that IP for sure. So there's lots of different people. That's why the industry is as big as it is. Like, and you came to Brand Licensing Europe. There's another show in Las Vegas called Licensing Show.
Yeah.
Which is probably 4 times bigger. I'm on the board for Licensing International, so I'm involved in all those things.
Yeah.
So Licensing International tends to be like a global one, whereas brand licensing is pretty global, but it's mostly based in EMEA, so Europe, Middle East, and Asia, right? So because it's closer to go to. But that was a phenomenal show. They did. I was super happy about how well that was attended, and
it was good. It was good. I think because like the previous ones I did as meetings online, because obviously of COVID and stuff. And it was just nice to go again and walk around the store, because the stand it's great walking around the stands and you see some of them fantastic stands. Like the Squishmallow stand was excellent. It was so good. We took a photo to my daughter, and my daughter was like, "Oh my god!" She was so jealous, because she was like, "I want to be there with the Squishmallows." But it's sort of like,
and just from a license perspective, like, well, we don't work on everything. Our goal, like our hope, is for everything to do well, because we want the business overall to do well.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So you don't want anything to not succeed. Yeah. Right. So.
Yeah, I think the new Funko with was it Randall wearing the Quick Stop jersey?
Yeah, that's another cool one as well. I saw that. I sent that to my friend. My friend was like, "Oh my god, you got to get it!" And I was like, "I will get one." They look cool.
Oh, I have that here.
Yeah,
those are out now.
But,
those ones. I know when we were going through with Funko for those ones, they were like, when they brought that through, it's like, oh, perfect, right? Because I really wanted to see that one. So
we'll have to get do a giveaway with them or something. Get a few and do a giveaway.
One of the other things we've come across is like the restrictions of doing licensing, because we used to just do art. We'd give Andy an idea, art would happen, it would look fantastic, and we'd get that out the door. But once you start getting more into the licensing side of it, which is what we're doing, typically there are art banks where we have to use specific types of art, which kind of limits us. I don't know if that's the deal with Kevin, though. I think so far we've pretty much
everybody has their own differences, and for Kevin, I remember at the beginning I went through, and Kevin sent me files of all the jerseys he's ever done. So you guys had access.
Yeah, I've got one of those. Yeah, I've got.
But as we've been going through, and Kevin would say, "Would love to do a task jersey," then you guys came up and made that up by yourselves, right? So
yeah. It's like if you did a yoga hose one, it'd be the same thing, but we'd sit and figure that one out, because I don't think there's any art that would satisfy that.
Yeah, we could do a Brodsky. We'd do a Brodsky one, though. Yeah. You just take the art right from the movie. That would pull off on a jersey, I think.
Yeah.
In
I'm going to talk to Kevin about that. I'm sure Kevin will have some thoughts.
Yeah.
could probably do the two girls behind the counter, like what's his daughter and Depp's daughter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could probably do the two of them behind the counter, just like the guys at Quick Stop.
Yeah,
we did the jersey. We did the T-shirt of the two. It was the Young Jane, Silent Bob, in front of the Quick Stop from Strike Back, and one of them actually is also Kevin's daughter. The other one was an actor, and we actually just tweaked the image to make it look like Jay's daughter, Logan.
The convenience store they worked at. What was the name of it?
Quick Stop.
No, in
it's A to go, A to go, or A to Z or something.
See, like we could do that as a crest idea as well, because the Quick Stop one did well, the movies did well, so like that would probably also work.
But John coming up with ideas. John, save for later. Give it all ideas away. Got to keep some stuff secret.
So, because we stopped doing the customs, one of the other things that people have asked is if they could do like custom names on the back of like a licensed jersey, which so far hasn't been allowed, and it's understandable why it isn't, because you wouldn't. I imagine most licensors wouldn't want somebody putting something offensive, or possibly, I don't know what the word would be, but sort of counter to their IP on the back. And I use the example of like, if we were to do a Michael Myers jersey, somebody wouldn't want they wouldn't want Freddy on the back of it or something like that, right? Or if we were to do
this is a question we've had lots in the past as we go on to print on demand product. And I have a different philosophy. I don't think people want to ruin something that they're spending a lot of money on by putting something on the back that's stupid, right? Like, but from a license perspective, they want to control the whole play.
Yeah.
So what we've done in the past is we've filtered out certain names, usually swear words, that you couldn't do.
I would imagine Kevin wouldn't have that much of an issue with swear words on the back.
No, Kevin wouldn't have it, but there's other IP that I work on that would be, family friendly or something like that.
It's like with
Monopoly, for example, that you guys have, right? Like, it's a family friendly brand, and you wouldn't want something. I just don't think. I think if there's any kind of filter in it, kind of like if you see somebody wanting to use the F word or something, then it's kind of that word gets rejected. There'll be a little bit more work.
But there could always be somebody who tries to sneak something through, like using a swear word in another language or something, and we didn't think to check for it, and then we have a Jurassic Park jersey with the word fucking Spanish on the back of it or something, and like we wouldn't know, and then the IP would get upset.
But that's where
and that's where that's really where it's out of your control. That's where the licensor is basically saying, here's our rules of engagement. We don't want you going through it. Like, that's why, like, the shirts at the beginning were all Smith, and then, the Hicks one was kind of over a conversation going, we could do that. We could do Hicks. We could do Graves. We could do, like, the other characters' names. And that because of all the Funkos we just did, and we just did all the Garbage Pail Kids for View Askew as well, right? So we kind of opened that up a little bit. But different properties have different rules. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. It just depends on what the the people that own the intellectual property are comfortable with.
Because it's kind of a defamation. It's kind of a defamation of the IP, isn't it? If someone has like bad language on the back, it's like with one of our licensors has like approved editorial list that I have to go through.
Yeah.
So but I'm not allowed to merge editorial words. We were doing something recently, and I took the name of something and added it to something else. And they're like, no, that doesn't approve editorial. It have to be cleared. They went to go and get it cleared. They said no. So then I was like, well, we'll have to take that out then, just use that word on its own, which kind of doesn't hold up, but does hold up a little bit. But then like every time they always refer to the approved editorial list, as in we're working on say something like the Dungeons and Dragons stuff. We've got, or even in the He-Man stuff, actually, they're quite flexible. I think some of the amends for some of those that came back were like, actually, change it to this. It sounds more like a team name. And they kind of had a bit more like, they got it a bit more, like, because where some of the other stuff goes, to one approvals person, then goes to another approvals person, and down that chain. And they're just like, right, we sign it off. That's not on the list. Right, it can't be approved. As in where they're a bit like, when I change it to this, it sounds more like a team, so we do it that way. So some
Right.
get it, some don't. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, it's different kind of rules. Some kind of like, oh, we get the premise of this, and others are like, no, stick to. It's like Scarface jersey is a prime example of what I'm wearing right now. As you can all see, if it works. So let's
Yeah,
match with
yeah, there you
Scarface.
go.
But there's another one like Halloween, for example, as well, where we had to use the name of the property, because we did have on this originally was called Miami Kingpins, but that's not on the approved editorial list. So they're like, one, you can't merge in two words, but two, that's not on the editorial list. So can we just go back to using the logo and stuff like that? Which actually works probably better for this than it did for Halloween, I would say. As in where Halloween was kind of like just having Halloween. on
And
two
from a
different
legal
colours.
perspective, they would have trademarked or registered certain names under
Yeah,
their
yeah,
intellectual property.
Yeah.
So when you go outside of it, it's not that they don't want you to do it; they just don't have the rights for you to do that.
Yeah, it's like with as you go through that editorial list, there's ones on there. It's like clear for usage, and then there's some that say not cleared for like it would say not cleared for apparel or not cleared for this type of merchandise, but you can use it in this situation. And so it gives you very defined usages of those words that you can how you can use them. But which is helpful.
Well, the fact
because,
for Scarface, you have a character on it. Like, it's not unusual with certain IP that, like, let's use an example I can't get in trouble for. Very unlikely for any IP that involved Tom Cruise that you'd ever be able to use it like this.
Yeah, I think Back
He
to
just
the
doesn't allow
Back
it.
to the Future is a similar one, where you're not allowed to use
Right, so-
Michael J. Fox or Christopher Lloyd because they just don't have the licensing rights for their image.
Yeah. And again, in some cases, old IPs, they gave the rights away, right? Like Cheech and Chong Up in Smoke. I don't think Cheech and Chong have any authority whatsoever on that one. But other ones, depending on. So the younger they are in the IP, chances are they probably given away their likeness rights because they wouldn't think there's a value. The more established they are, it's their decision, right? So that's a part of the conversation as well. That's why when you work in animated stuff, I worked on the DreamWorks business for many years. It was the easiest because there was nobody like, oh, I don't like that shot. It's like, well, Shrek is Shrek, right?
Yeah.
So Mike Myers doesn't get to like give his POV. Now, if you want to do a Shrek doll with his voice, there's always great stories. Like Toy Story, I think it was Buzz and Woody had alternate voices, and I think one. I know for Shrek, for Donkey, it was Eddie Murphy's brother that did the voice.
In Toy Story, for the toy, it was Tom Hanks's brother that actually did his voice for his toy.
Yeah, that was a Canadian company back in the day that did it. So like, there are kind of intricacies like that where they just don't want to do it, or have the desire to do it. So like, sometimes the stuff that I think your fan base wants you to do, and you're like, why can't you do it? It's like not all the rules are easy, and some are. You're kind of working with the rules of engagement to go through and get it. Some people.
I think I have a list of over 300 properties that I kept for a while of like things that people want us to do or ideas. And it's like the cost to get the licensing for even some of those would be so high. And some of them have maybe one design in them. And then we're like, well, what do we do now? We've paid, I'll give an example, like we've paid $10,000 for this license and it maybe makes one jersey. Like, and we've got a 2-year deal or a 1-year deal. Like we can only make one jersey. That's it. So it gets complicated. And then one of the other points I have is that it's not like a week. Like you say, it's 2 days to get an approval on a design, but getting that contract
that's a very
initially, can take forever.
Yeah.
We were dealing with a major IP, like a giant company one. It is something that we have a lot of requests for things that they own. Something that personally there is a Grail jersey that I have even tried to bribe the boss to just make me one of, and I can't get. And I know the boss went through a lot of talks with this company, and then some stuff happened. They had to pause, and I think we've been waiting 6 or 8 months now. Maybe talks will resume again, but like he talked to them for 6 to 8 months at least to get to where he was.
Yeah.
And it's like, this isn't happening right now. And it like all of that is gone. Sometimes the contract talks can take weeks, months. It's not something that's done overnight. Andy did that show. What was it, September?
Yes. Yeah. And we just...
September?
Yep, and one of those...
Beginning of October.
Yeah, it was October. Yeah,
we're still waiting on the big one that we think...
Although we've had an email about it. We've had an emaal this week.
Oh, did we?
Okay. Yeah. I said that to you yesterday.
So,
we had an email about it.
That's a big it's big one that we're potentially looking for.
And in terms of approvals
again,
and stuff,
it's been months. It's months for something that the people he spoke to were like, "This is a great idea. We should do this. Let's get on it." And we're still at months. So like, it is not something that happens overnight. It's a long process.
It'll be worth the payoff.
Yeah, it depends on who the IP holder is.
There's
I know there's some partners.
There's levels of approval.
And if they're an agent and they have to go through, and then if they have to go through, if it's a company that is based outside of North America, then they have to wait for them. I've had in the past, not this year, but like in other years where, you get a deal in and the company looks at you and says, well, it's past November 15th. We don't do contracts after November 15th.
Oh, no.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I understand. Like, okay, you guys have to wait till January for that part of it. And some take longer to go through, and some are super quick. Listen, that's the whole piece. It's like, there is no rhyme or reason sometimes for it.
There's legality involved,
and it could be a small company that it takes a long time, and a huge company that it takes a minute.
Yeah, it's like John was saying about approvals and things. There was one jersey we've done recently, which I think I sent it one evening. I sent it to Sean. Sean has submitted it for approvals, and then literally the next day we got it back saying it's approved, and that's the first one from that licensor we've had back within a space of a day ever. Like usually it takes ages. They signed it off straight away, and I'm like, Sean messaged me, need your artwork for the factory. I was like, are you serious? They've signed it off already? He went, yeah. I was like, oh my god, I think that's the quickest one we've ever had signed off, and anything other than Kevin's work, like anything. Like Kevin's is like 20 minutes. Like done. But that one was like, and
we have other ones. We have other ones we're working on with the music band, and we basically say, if you're using style guide assets that we're providing to you, just tell us what you're using, show us the design, and we'll approve it right away. It's like there's no one to really show it to. Like that's an easy one to approve. It's really if you're going to create something different. We had an animated property and somebody wanted to create new artwork. And like, well, a few people are going to have to see that, so that'll take a little bit more time. But it happens. It's the nature of the business. Yeah. And some people are super quick. Some people are really slow. Some of the slow people would say they're being very thoughtful.
Yeah, it's interesting you say. It's interesting you say that. It's like I think we've had instances where. But in terms of creativity and things, like we always kind of like with the Godzilla stuff, like we said to Sean, like we've got this stuff here, like what flexibility do we have within that sphere to be like, can we play with these bits here or take these? I know some stuff that we do, like I use assets on the asset banks that they've got. For a prime example, the jersey that John's wearing now.
Yeah.
So that patch is based on, that's all stuff from the John keeps disappearing in and out. That was all from their asset. Yeah. That was all from their asset bank, because the original design I got Alarian to do, the French dude that we use. Like it was beautiful. It was amazing. It was like when he sent it to me, I was just like, oh my god, it's a beautiful piece of design. And we sent it to them, and they were like, and they picked it a bit, and they sent it back, and then they kind of had to come back with something else, and they picked it again. They're like, actually, we can't approve it because there's things that don't really kind of sit with. And it was like, fair enough. I mean, we learned a lesson there, because obviously we've got someone to do the work, pay for it all, and then it's like, well, actually, just use asset banks. So I got that stuff together, collated it, referenced all, had to make in the document reference all the assets I used to build this new piece of artwork, sent it to them, and they were like, yeah, that's fine, signed it, pretty much approved it straight away, or over a few weeks. But, and so it's, when we have these conversations now, when Sean's having these conversations as well, Like we're kind of like, right, what in their sphere, what flexibility do we have to be creative? Like, is it like the Dungeons and Dragons stuff's quite good because they've allowed us to go off and be like, right, I draw a mimics thing, it looks like a mimic. So like, and they were like, yeah, this is really cool because there's a bit of flexibility to be creative and fun with what they've got. As in where some IPs we have to work with, we have to be really strict with.
Rigid, very rigid.
Yeah, and we have to use this stuff. And so it's, for me, it's an interesting.
And sometimes those asset banks are real small.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
one IP we'd love to do more for, but there's like 20 images in the asset banks. Some of them are chibi designs, and it's like, well, this isn't.
You can't really do.
Really what we did. Now what do we do?
John's always like, oh my god, and I was like, no, it's an interesting design problem for me. To be like, right, we've got, because I've been designing for like 20 odd years, so it's like I have to look at it and go, right, actually I've got these things. What can I make with these things that will work for what we need it to work for? And then try and then be creative with their stuff in that sphere. And like I said, sometimes we can go off and just do stuff and send it to them. They're like, this is awesome, love it. This is perfect kind of. So again, it depends on the IP and the business, how flexible they can be. Like Kevin's very flexible.
Yeah.
But then he's only one person approving lots of stuff.
Sometimes we'll go back to the licensee and say, can you give us a vision of what you're going to do for next year? So like, for a property like Godzilla, probably would make sense kind of thing. Here's the 6 jerseys we want to make, right? And they may come back and say, these 5 are perfect. This 6th one doesn't make sense. And that sometimes if you can have that conversation up front and not hands draw everything, but kind of like pull some assets through and kind of mock it up in more rough. I call it the 1 mile check before you go and spend.
Yeah, I've started to do that more often with things. Yeah, like
just do a gut check to say, does this work? And that they'll usually give that feedback to go through. So
there's been a few times where I've said to Sean, I'm not going to vector this now. I'll make it look as tight as possible on the iPad, and then we'll just send that through in a design to say this is what we're proposing, and then they can come back and feed. Say it saves time, and it's a general thing within the industry anyway. Like you would send rough sketches and stuff, say this is what we're thinking of a design or a logo, and come back and forth. So it's like there's no harm in us doing that, but I'll just make it look as real as possible. To be like, this is what we're thinking, and like you said, it just helps that I like the term 1 mile check. It just be like, right, we're on the right tracks. That's good. Anything else the other side of this, they're more likely to approve because they've already had a sense of what we're trying to achieve early doors. And I think we've started to do that. And again,
you can't assume the approval people have ever seen a hockey jersey before.
Yeah, but that's the other thing. Yeah, that's the other thing.
Understand the intricacies with it, right? Yeah. So like, do you need the patches on the side? Why do you need that? Why So it's kind of having that explanation. The more input you can give at the beginning, the better input you'll get back from them to go through. Because I think if they, listen, if they're going to contractually work with you guys, they want you to be successful.
Yeah.
There's no upside for them for you not to be successful. It's just sometimes communications.
Yeah. And like you said, it's the people you're sending stuff to. Like they might not have seen a hockey jersey, but where we're kind of starting to bridge into more baseball and some more like American football style jerseys. They understand the concept of those. So it's like, well, actually, we're going to do this with this one and try this with an American football jersey. And it kind of, then they're like, oh, yeah, I see how that works. And you show them visuals and they get the idea. And then you can move forward a bit more efficiently. But like, again, like I said, if you're not a hockey fan as such, your knowledge on hockey jerseys might be very limited or very narrow in terms of what you understand that to be. Like I said, like, does it need shoulder patches? Is it just stripes and numbers, as it was described to me once before? And so it's interesting. Sorry, I've digressed. We've got giveaways and stuff to do. The boss has messaged me to say about giveaways. I've been keeping, and we've got questions of people want to ask you as well, Stuart. So I'm gonna go through and find a question. I did pin some, but now there was one here specifically for you. Sorry, this is where it all goes a bit wrong now. Someone was giving me grief because I'm wearing a Boston hat. I didn't have time to go and get the New Jersey Devils hat from upstairs. I apologise. I have been to Boston. I like it as a city. And I like
how... I'm trying to make believe. Carlton the Bear behind me because I'm a Leaf fan.
So
the Boston hat.
I do love that. I do love that rink.
Not making me happy either, but it's all good.
I've got a Black Hawks one sitting here as well, but like I didn't want to wear the Devils one's upstairs. I should have got it on beforehand. But I do like this hat. It's a nice hat. But I got it for a deal as
So,
well.
I was gonna read through the questions that I can find.
Oh yeah, John, you do it. I'm trying. Oh, here's one. So here's one quickly. So this is to Stuart. So other brands you deal with, yeah, other brands you deal with did have designers and people that work for it as geeky as John and Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, our people that we work with on our hot sauce business, I honestly think they know more about certain brands that we work on than the brand owners do.
Yeah.
So so I think, listen, it's fandom, right? Like, you're engaged and you enjoy something and you want to know as much as possible about them, right? So, but yeah, for sure. And there's like, listen, I worked for years on the Marvel business, and like, they were going so deep into some of the stuff. It's like, I don't really get it. I've had that a couple of times. It's funny. I've had that a couple of times with Kevin, where I'll send him something for approval. He's like, I don't even understand that reference. Like, we can't do that. If I don't get the reference, it won't make sense to most of my fan base, right?
Yeah.
So I think we want to do something that's, that people understand and get, and you don't want to limit it to the 4 people who will understand.
Yeah, that's it. Remember,
right? I think people are in this business because they love the business, and I think if you can work on brands that you like, really love, then it's great.
Yeah.
So
you get more out of it. I remember when we was at BLE with my son Jay, he was with us, and we were talking to someone, and this is where if this license pays off, this is he won this license, but he was talking to this person, and I did the presentation, showed everything what we do and everything that, and they were like, yep, totally on board, love it. And I was like, right, and so I passed it over to Jay to talk about this IP, and they just nerded out between each other. It was a game IP. They just nerded out between each other for about half an hour, and Jay made a reference, and this woman's eyes lit up. And I was like, oh, was that because I haven't played this game in years? Was that like a reference? She goes, that wasn't even a game reference. That was a book level reference. And that's how much he knew about that. And so like she was totally on board straight away. And then like she was making references and stuff. And Jay, my son, was like, oh yeah, that's references even outside of what I was referencing as well. Like, but they both knew what they were talking. So I just let them chat for half an hour. If we do get that license, that was all his work. That was nothing to do with me at all in the slightest. But it was just like, but that's the kind of thing. Like a lot of the stuff we work on, do love. Question I've got on here, John will have some more in a minute. Like we've public domain stuff in terms of licensing, which is also an interesting premise, because we've done, so the HP Lovecraft stuff's public domain, so we can produce, say, like Cthulhu jerseys, etc., because they're public domain, and things like someone mentioned, like Steamboat Willie, obviously now within the public domain, and that's always an interesting premise, because obviously we couldn't do Steamboat Willie as a Disney version of Steamboat Willie, because that's Disney's version of Steamboat Willie.
Yeah.
As in where we could do our own. It's like Winnie the Pooh. We couldn't do a Disney-ified version of Winnie the Pooh. It would have to be a version of the original book type, like version of Winnie the Pooh. And so, like, I suppose the question I'm asking is, does that come up quite often in terms of licensing? Because I know Zorro's a weird one where it wasn't licensed, but it is licensed, and there's the kind of, as you looked into
I think there's an example with, like, I remember being offered to work on a secondary Tarzan property. It's like, but Tarzan's the original. It's like, well, this is actually the original Tarzan. There's so many different variations of it. I just don't think there's much, it's harder, right, to go through. And if it becomes public domain, then anybody can make it. So you're not getting a lot of value out of it. And, example, I don't work on it, so I can talk about it, but like NASA, the U.S. Space Agency, like that's a zero royalty deal. I think you need to get approval for it. So that's why all of a sudden one day people woke up and it's like, wow, NASA's cool, and we don't have to pay a royalty for it. So like, let's all do it. I just don't think it holds.
Oh, that's
value,
why. Is that why we see loads of NASA Primark in Primark, like jerseys for NASA and stuff in Primark over here?
Yeah,
like tons of them.
So
because they can just do whatever they want.
In theory, you need to have approval for it, but I don't know how they regulate it.
Yeah.
Andy had mentioned that Steamboat Willie is open license now, but I think I read an article a while back where it basically said, like, it might be open license, but if you do it, Disney probably won't deal with you in the future. Like they'll keep tabs on it and be like, yeah, if you're making product, just because it's open license doesn't mean like they're going to forgive you later on. So it's one of those things like if Winnie the Pooh is open license and Steamboat Willie is open license and you decide to go and produce stuff from them, and later you want like a Disney license, it may not happen.
I would put it back on you guys to look at it this way. If all of a sudden, so you do a deal with some company, right? And then people were doing all this counterfeit stuff, right? Like it hurts the value of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I think Disney's kind of, I it's hard. Like from a Disney perspective, like they don't want to see people profit off of something that just because over a time period, it's gone away. But I think the engine of a Disney supporting you with a property is probably more beneficial. Like Kevin does a post for you guys, all of a sudden you've got a whole audience for it. Like, when we work on Godzilla, like if they put it out to their audience, there's a value to that. There's a value of working together. If you're going to put generic stuff on a shirt, I don't know what the value is. And then the question becomes, does a non-licensed shirt, should it be charged way less because you're not paying a fee for that one? So like that's, I don't know. I think you want to. I'm going to take you back to a different world. I've worked in the entertainment industry. I worked in the movie theater business. I worked at Xbox, and I've been doing this for 20 years. I had a ton of friends in the music industry when Napster was coming through, and watched them lose their jobs, and like that whole friend base that I had that worked in music, one by one were losing their jobs. And you'd go to somebody's house, and they had all these like illegally downloaded, CDs of music and blah blah blah. And it's like, oh, that's really nice. I really like that planter you have. I'm going to take it home. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, well, you're stealing from us. Like, you don't think stealing's a bad thing, so we should steal from you. So, like, I think you got to respect the IP. Like, they put work against it. There is a value against it. I understand that certain things are coming up and it's no longer it's no longer protected, and it becomes public domain. Again, it means anybody anywhere can do it. And in your, in the apparel world, there's lots of counterfeit stuff out there. So you just don't want you want that company to protect you in case somebody comes through and does something. Yeah. They're ripping off something you're doing. So it works both ways.
I know that's happened. That's happened recently, isn't it? We had something where we've got a license for, and we noticed someone else was doing it, and I think the boss was on it and was like, I'll get that. I'll send that to the people that need to deal with that.
The C&D,
the
cease and desist, and like
he's like,
we do that all the time. I worked at, I'll give you a great example. I worked on Sons of Anarchy, which one of my favorite shows of all time.
Quality show,
from a show perspective, and from a license perspective, that was pure gold. But there was so much counterfeit stuff out there, and we really needed to help our licensees to make sure that they weren't really competing against stuff. So we worked with local government here in Canada, and we were raiding places and taking all the illegal stuff out, right? So that's part of the responsibility for the IP owner, is to make sure that you have minimal risk from counterfeit product, right? Yeah. So your product is better, but it doesn't mean that somebody couldn't be making a lower version of a jersey.
How do you deal
the price?
How in kind of them terms? How do you deal with like counterfeit products, say coming from like Japan and China and stuff? And
well, I was going to say we actually had it where a Chinese hoodie company was stealing our designs directly from the website and printing them onto hoodies. Like not even altering them. You could find our jerseys on a hoodie on their site, and they were just. It was just blatant. Like it's clearly they would just browse our website whenever they're bored and steal an idea and just print it themselves.
Because their IP laws are kind of
there is a mechanism to ensure that doesn't happen. And in a lot of cases, when people are importing stuff from China or from outside of North America into North America, they'll ask for a letter showing that they have the official license for this product, so they can bring it in as they're doing their importing. Right. So stuff does. There is
ways it is policed.
Yeah. So from a Canadian perspective, there's a law firm that we work with, and they work with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And when they'll go and find places. There's certain malls in every city that sell counterfeit stuff, and they'll go and raid them, right? And they'll take all their merch away, and it'll get burnt up. So like that's part of the duty and responsibility of the IP holder. For Kevin, I know at the beginning there's so much counterfeit stuff on the marketplace, and we kind of looked at it from an overall perspective. Like if people were like bigger companies were blatantly trying to rip us off, we would do a C&D. If it was one person making a few small items, like we weren't trying to be punitive. We were just trying to protect the intellectual property, and you can just do it smartly. The problem is Etsy and Redbubble and some of those sites, like it's all counterfeit stuff.
Well, I've had like things like Fiverr, when Fiverr came out, like even from just logos I put on like Dribble and things, and on like my social on Instagram and stuff. I'll get, but there was a kind of group of people, sports logo designers and stuff, and I'll get messages going, I saw this on Redbubble today, this guy's stealing my stuff, he's also stealing your stuff, and it'd be like, right, have to go onto those, message them on Fiverr as well, and go, these people are using my stuff, you shouldn't be using it, and then I'll go, we'll deal with it, have you got proof? It's like, yes, this is my stuff, and you have to go, but it's such an arduous, like, that's just an individual, me having to then do that work and go through and check, and it's so arduous, but like, it's kind of like, it makes it bad. It looks bad on me as a designer, and that in terms of that kind of thing. And I suppose the same as like say for us as a business, if someone's doing that to us, it makes us look bad because it looks like we're not kind of
we
managing ourselves.
It's a hard piece, and it's hard to kind of look over everything. I know, Kevin has a very loyal fan base, and I don't know if Mark Lamb is watching now, but Mark always is really good about like, hey, saw this, is this legit or not legit? To go through, and we'll kind of make that decision, go through the team to see like, do we want to do something about that, or it is legit, or stuff like that happens. And as you get into certain categories, I know in music, and I can't talk about the band, but like some of the band members' family may be making some stuff, and like you're not going to shut them down, right? So like there's different. Every IP has their own kind of story behind it, and the more closely linked to a human being, the more stories there are. If it's a company like Disney, it's it's hard and set rules. There's no games playing there, but in other categories there could be a little bit more. So
yeah, this is right. I think we should do some giveaways because we can sit and talk about it for hours. This is super. I'm getting messages on the Facebook page going, "This live's so interesting," and I think we've still got a load of viewers still on. Usually they drop off by about now because me and John have whittled on for ages, but everyone's like super involved and super interested in what's going on. So John, I'll pass over to you. So we've got a free jersey, a $50 voucher, and I think it was a $25 voucher. $25 voucher. John can pick them because I hate picking them because I end up missing.
I'll read off a bunch of questions, whatever ones we have time for, and then we'll pick the three best.
Or pick the three best questions, and then we'll ask those to Stuart, and then Stuart can pick the best questions.
There's so many good ones.
I know, there's lots. Sorry, Stuart, I'm putting you under pressure now as well.
That's okay. As long as I don't know their names, and I can't.
Yeah. You can just say the question that interested you the most. So pick three, John, and then the question that interests Stuart the most, and the second and the third.
But now John's under.
I know. John's like, oh my god, he's panicking.
There are a lot of good questions. Some of them are just small, but
he's so panicking. He's
John's looking. I have a question for you guys that I ask Sean all the time.
Yeah, go on.
You're both wearing jerseys and hats. When are you going to start making hats?
We used to make hats. We did make hats for a
Okay.
long time. I think at the time, because it was the stuff that we were doing, I think at the time the margins were so short on hats, and it was hard to kind of mark it up. But I think Sean has met that we have had conversations in the last week and a half, haven't we, John? That the boss has ideas. But definitely something that we need to start doing again. I think we'll have to, obviously now we've got more licenses and things like that. Look how we've approached using the license. Some of the logos, when we did them before, some of the logos, because they're drawn to be at this size and they're right to embroider that size, coming down to this size, I need to scale them back a bit more and take away some like superfluous colours or patterns and things because there's limited colour range on hats and stuff. But it's definitely we've had discussions about it recently, and I've done some visuals for things that we've been discussing, and so it's definitely like we should do it again because it was cool. People love the hats. I've still got some of the original ones. There was one down here, kicking around, and I wear them regularly.
The problem with the hats we made is that they were they're snapbacks.
Ah, yeah, snapbacks are the worst.
I have a giant head. I need a size 8, and a snapback does not fit.
See, this one,
So it
this
gets
one,
a bit problematic.
I usually wear like the flexi ones. It's unusual I wear normal ones like this. I usually, because the flexi ones are more comfortable. But good job I got them thinking my hair's a mess at the moment as well. But no, it's a good question. Yeah, we should definitely do so.
Well,
but
we can use a Canadian word. You could also do a toque.
Well, that was one of the things the boss was mentioning. I was telling someone this conversation, this very conversation today, and I was saying that, like, I went to the person I spoke to, I said, do you know what a toque is? And I went, no. Because Sean keep mentioning this to me, and I'm like, what the fuck is a toque? I have no idea. This is like a super Canadian word. I have no idea what it means.
It's a beanie without a pom-pom.
Right, yeah. So I was just like, I said to people today, I was telling the story to people today, and I said, Sean, what is a toque? Like, please, this is killing me. Because you mentioned it, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he told me, I was like, right, now I know what that is. I'm going to use that word all the time to confuse people over here. Other than Canadian people I know that play hockey and stuff. And but we have been looking at doing those, and the visuals I've been doing and stuff.
Because I know when I being at San Diego Comic Con, we've done a movies pop up for the last couple of years, and I literally, kind of look out or something, and a large percentage of them are wearing your hockey jerseys and a hat.
Yeah.
It's like, just seemed like an opportunity.
It just means that, yeah.
Anyway, I was only giving you more time to find questions, so.
No, it's definitely on the cards. It's definitely something we'll talk about again, I think.
I got one question here. It says, is it hard to do cross licensing? And I would assume by this they mean two licenses in the same brand, in the same image.
It depends. Well, no, it depends on the two things you're going to put together.
So if it was to say, for example, if it was Funko and Kevin Smith stuff, so we did a Funko Kevin Smith jersey with the figures on the front, like
that would be we just did that with Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah, of course.
We did USQ times Garbage Pail Kids. It came out so great, and we were like, well, I know we're making cards. Can we do T-shirts as well? So we actually did those as well with Fanatics. One of my favorite ones, and it's funny, when I was in the UK, I met with the company because I never forgot it. When I worked on the Marvel business, they're doing a collaboration between like Spider-Man and Techniques. They're doing it for they're doing turntables. Right? Really cool. So if stuff like that works, like, listen, Kiss has done every collaboration in the history of the world. That band. So it depends on the two things you're trying to put together, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
To be able to do. But yeah, Garbage Pail Kids and Kevin, like, I remember going to Kevin and Jay on that one, and they're like, "Oh my god, we loved Garbage Pail Kids." When we were kids, we'd love to.
I've still got Garbage Pail Kid cards.
If it makes sense to do it, I think you could do it. I think that's a good question. They could be going to the next.
That was a good one, Mark. John, Mark,
it depends on the two brands. Like, you couldn't do. You couldn't probably. I'm just trying to find the most extreme level and things that I don't work on. They probably couldn't do a Playboy Sesame Street program.
Two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Although, like, if you did, it'd be well funny.
Probably could.
Yeah, it'd be super funny.
Somebody posted an image on our socials the other day, and it was a Wizard of Oz layout with with Dorothy and the lion, the Tin Man, and Scarecrow. Yeah. But the head of Oz was, what's his name from Red Dwarf?
Oh, Lister.
And then I can't remember what the no, not Lister. It was the hologram.
Oh, I know his name's Chris. Shit.
Yeah, but either way, it was the holograms.
Rimmer.
It was the computer set. It was the computer guy's head.
Yeah. Crichton.
As Oz, and then like there were different characters, and it was three different properties crammed into one image, and I'm like, that will never
that's
happen.
kind of fit. Yeah,
It would take us 3 years to get the license for that, and we'd make
but the other piece of it, to talk from a business perspective, how do you split the royalties? So, like, if you're paying X royalties and you're doing collab, you're paying X times 2. If there's 3, or else there's no money in it for anybody to want to be able to do it. I listen. Wizard of Oz is Warner Brothers. It's, it is a classic property. I don't think, and they have so much money. Again, I don't work on a brand, but I would assume just from their slot machines alone, they make so much money. They're not going to play around with that property. They don't need to, right? Whereas it'd be more likely as some of the newer stuff, any of the what you want to call it, the Bored Apes or stuff like that, to cross them over, like, just they're trying to get noise.
The amends having to go through 3 separate companies. 6 years. It'd be 6 years before that design got through.
But I remember when I used to work on Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty did something with Kiss.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
they're not so bad if it makes sense, right? And usually those are those 2 companies working together to make that happen.
Yeah, it's sometimes like
it depends. It's
them random pairings that seem to work. I mean, like the Hello Kitty thing and the Kiss thing. It's so obscure, but it's like, actually it works. And then you kind of like, these things do kind of, they live in separate spheres. But if you put you put the patterns on the face and the face makeup on the Hello Kitty doll, that works. And it's adorable, it's cute. And you're hitting another audience then as well. People going, oh my God, this is kind of cool. And that's why Kiss is still so
Hello
relevant.
Kitty's done a lot of work in the sports realm too, right? So like, a Hello Kitty Toronto Blue Jays shirt or something, right? So some of them work. It just takes a little bit more time to go through, and they just end up being more expensive because you're paying a double royalty.
It's like you see the collaborations with like the WHL teams where they've got like someone posted a Loki one today going, oh, can we do a Loki jersey like this? And John shot them down as a dream killer with the L word. But like them types of collaborations work because they're just doing like costume based jerseys for games and things. It's like the Wookiees one that came out for it wasn't Swamp Rabbits, I can't remember what it was now, it was an Iowa team. But they just like Wookiees.
Yeah, Iowa Wookiees. I mean, how did they get that?
Yeah, but
there's no way they have a Disney license.
No, but that's where their collaborations come in. Like Marvel were just signed up with the lacrosse league to do like lacrosse jerseys for the different teams and stuff for special game day jerseys and things. And so those things kind of work within the league level and stuff.
Yeah, I can tell the story because I don't work for them anymore, and this was I wasn't in licensing in this time. I was in working for a movie theater company. We were owned by Paramount, and somebody from Paramount came to me and said, we need to do more promotion around Star Trek. I want you to go to the local hockey league in Toronto and say, we'll sponsor every team if they all wear a different variant of a Star Wars jersey or Star Trek jersey. And the leagues were like, you're crazy. We'd never do that. We make our money from people sponsoring our teams. We're not. So there's not enough money.
But the thing is, on my Behance page years and years ago, I did Star Trek soccer jerseys, like based on the uniforms. Had loads of people liked it, had loads of traction on Behance and stuff. But that would work in that sphere because of the types of uniforms that they are. Like from the next gen ones, so you can have the card one in the red and like with the line across, and it suits that kind of fashion. As where if we did it as hockey jerseys, it would look a little weird. But as in where if it's a soccer jersey, or I'll say football because that's what it is over here, a football shirt, then that would work on that. And like you can even do it as an American football shirt, but again the number would obscure the design, as it were. But
I guess we'll see if there's a Deadpool rec jersey at some point.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
He owns the team, and he owns part of that IP.
Oh yeah, for sure. There'll be a tie-up. Yeah.
That would be the case to go through and do it. But there's been other collabs with the sports leagues. I think do a good job of kind of creating it, but probably not on their jersey. Although there's some football players who have Star Wars characters on their helmet. I'm a Chargers fan. It's not them. It's other teams that do it. I think Pittsburgh does it. So yeah. It could happen. Again, it all depends on who's managing that IP, who the licensee is, what the what the opportunity is, right?
From
we
your,
get that sometimes with you guys where
Yeah.
it would be great and we'd love to do it with a certain IP, and then we go back to the IP and it's like, well, what's the dollar volume? It's like, it's not what you think it is,
Yeah.
right? Like, you know, you guys are saying you're doing 250, 200 jerseys. Like, how many can you do? And that sometimes limits it too, because they want, you know, some of these IP, like, if it's not going to make a ton of money, they don't want to spend the extra time against it.
Yeah. As I suppose from your perspective, it's about looking for opportunities as well, and looking at things that would work.
We just want to have. We just want to have. I would, and I talk about this when I'm in a board meeting. I'd much rather have our industry called strategic partnerships than licensing, because really that's what we're doing. We're putting people together to maximize something, right? So
Yeah.
in your case, we're bringing you guys ideas for IP that would make sense for your jerseys, and for our partners, we're bringing different partners together for them to go through and create revenue and to increase the value of their intellectual property, or at least keep the relevancy in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes you see something a little bit more obscure. It's like, wow, I haven't thought about that for a long time. I should go back and watch that movie again. I will tell you, I'll give you a short example, and I know we're probably going way over time.
That's all right.
I started working on Leonard Skinner, and I knew a bunch of the music. I couldn't say, you know, at the beginning, like, I knew the whole catalog. So I would play the music in the background while I was working. It's like, holy shit, I didn't realize Tuesday's Gone is the opening music for the movie Happy Gilmore. I just thought that was music for Happy Gilmore. I had no idea. Yeah. I went back and watched that, and now I'm kind of back into Happy Gilmore again.
Good movie.
That association kind of brought me back into it. So
cool, John. You got those other questions, dude? We only done one.
Yeah.
It was a good one as well.
Yeah, I know. So the next one,
so far that one question's winning.
Yeah, he is. He's winning everything. He's got everything.
The next question, the guy I picked, he actually has 3 really good questions. So I'm going to do all 3 of them. I'm just going to give him the free jersey because so far his are the best.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
So first one, what is the most expensive license out there? Stuart mentioned one to Andy and I before this started. I don't know if we can say any names, but it was 7 figures.
Yeah. Well, listen, anytime you go into any of the major film studios, they're going to be more expensive, right?
Yeah.
Just because of the amount of IP they have underneath it. So I think to work with somebody like a Disney or a Warner Brothers or your Universal could be very expensive. And it depends, you know, if you want to do something. I think sometimes people don't understand, you know, it takes money to kind of create the contracts and do everything else. So, like, I know we had worked on something for Star Wars. It just became too cost prohibitive. Like, the partner I was working with just couldn't do it. But they ended up doing something. I'm looking at it now. They ended up doing something with Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers was super easy to work with because, you know what, in that case, the article we were doing, they loved, and they just wanted to do it. I think in some cases they would have done it just to get the samples. Whereas the person at Disney, and that person at Disney is no longer there, the new person may have a different perspective, but, you know, bigger company, more rules, more regulations, it's more expensive to get a contract done. You know, you talked about the length of time. They're big engines, right? So you've got to go through it. I know in some of the brands, I'm going to use examples of companies that aren't around anymore. I worked on Fox, and Fox had like a minimum guarantee rule. So like it was like, I think it was $25,000. Now for the US, that's not a big number. For Canada, that was a bigger number for some of the categories, right? So there are rules of engagement, but yeah, the bigger ones you would assume would be more. Again, I think there's always a proviso. If they really want to do something with you, there's always a deal that can be done. If they don't, they just make you more expensive.
Okay, this next question, same, is directly for you. What is the coolest item you got from a company you worked for the license on?
Oh, we did the NFTs with Funko for Kevin, and I thought those were super cool. And the fact that there was such a limited amount, and they have to send me a sample, right? So I thought those were pretty cool. I'm looking around. I work out of my basement, but you can see the stuff behind me. That I just took a picture of one of my walls. But we did some stuff. there's an artist called Shag that I've done some work with. For
I
Kevin.
know him.
Kevin
Yeah.
had called.
I know
Yeah,
that
so
guy.
Kevin had texted me one day and asking me if I thought there was an opportunity to do something with Shag, and I'm like, I don't really know who he
Oh,
is
his art's
because he's a
amazing.
California-based
So good, yeah.
artist. And reached out, and the person who he works with has become a good friend and is my agent from Toronto. And the piece that we did on Jane Silent Bob through the years, like I have a copy of that one. That could be the coolest one, just because it was like from left field. And then with Shag, we've done Godzilla, so there's some great Godzilla prints, and we did Batman as well. And there's a Scooby-Doo one too. So yeah, those two. I kind of look at them, they're all like my kids, and I love all of them. Like you can see behind me, I have like the Jane Silent Bob Funko sodas. Like I thought those were super cool to do. Kevin always had the Funkos behind him, and like, so I thought that was a cool idea. I liked that one, but you can see most of them are Kevin's. There's stuff that I worked on.
That's like the question I get. People always ask when we do these, and like, oh, what's your favourite jersey? And it's like, I can't answer that question because I've done so many over the years.
I own 134 jerseys. How can I pick a favorite?
Yeah, and I was like, and like, because I look at it from a like the enjoyment of what I went through to do it. The one I generally like one we did years ago, the Goondocks one, which I enjoyed because I enjoyed the process of like designing it. And sometimes I have to kind of look back. It's like the jersey may look good, but I have to look at the like. I always look at it from a perspective of how much I enjoyed doing that piece of work and how much fun it was and stuff to get where we got to it.
I know Kevin really liked this one. This is the Kevin we did. Kevin as Mr. Potato Head. So this one was cool. So they all have different pieces. The ones that I keep are the ones that I like the most. So I'm just looking through here. But yeah, I think the Shag one or the Funko. So Funko has been so fun to work with over the years, and when we finally got them. Just because there's so much stuff that goes through Funko to be able to do all the characters. So to do Kevin and Jay and Randall and Dante and Elias, like that was a pretty cool one to see. So when those came through, we were super happy about that. So for people who have those ones, we worked really hard. There are a bunch of Easter eggs through those ones as well. So.
All right. And the last question from that guy, because he had some really good ones. Who are the toughest, pickiest licensors who keep requesting changes to designs? I don't know that we can actually name people.
I can give you an answer for that one. Again, it's somebody I work with now, and again, sometimes just because the IP, like, there's just so much history behind it and love behind it, and the people that work on it are so engaged in it. So the one I would say for sure is Simpsons. I worked on Simpsons for a while, and like everything was very like they weren't wrong. They're just very meticulous, right? Like I remember we were doing just like a house key, and like the story behind the house key, like what's on the front of the key, what's on the back of the key, how does the front and back go through it? And it may seem annoying to us because we just wanted to get it approved. But it made sense, and there's a reason that brand's been around for many, many years because they are so serious about their IP, right? So sometimes it's not a bad thing. It's annoying when you're on the other side of it and just like let's go. But how can you argue with a brand that's been around for 30 years and keeps creating great content for them to be
clearly doing something
they're not more
right.
difficult? They're just more. They know their brand, and they just want to make sure that everything associated with the brand is perfect. And I would say the opposite one from a question perspective, which IP don't really care about their IP and are just looking to take money, right? That would be more problematic, right? Like it's kind of like a lot of crap on the marketplace. We don't work with anybody like that. But I think you have to respect the process, right? It can be problematic, but like. These guys are around for a long time because they know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's cool.
See, I can answer a question and not get in trouble.
Yeah. So, John, what? As it was free from one person, that was good questions. Who was that? And the free jersey goes to that person.
Yeah, I'm gonna give that one a free jersey.
Who was it? And I'll put it in the chat. We just announced
I'll
it now.
send them to you. I'll send them names in a second.
Okay.
So for the last question, what was the easiest license / biggest get you're proud of?
Oh wow. I hate to always go back to Kevin, but like I've worked on Fox, I've worked on Marvel, I've worked on a whole bunch of stuff over the years. I've worked on Hello Kitty. I think the Kevin piece, Kevin and Leonard Skinner are probably the two for me. Not that they're easy to get, but it's kind of like, I think sometimes you want to be a little self-deprecating. I am a licensing agent based in Toronto. So when I was having the conversations with Kevin's team, and I said, but I am in Toronto, I'm not based in LA. They said, well, we love Canadians. What's the issue there? Right. And so it kind of gave me that opportunity to do something. And that's why I'm always so loyal to that brand, because we've worked together for a long time. It's been wonderful. And they just trusted that, I think COVID's changed those rules of engagement, because everybody's can be anywhere at this point. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly that.
Before COVID, people were like, I want somebody in New York or LA because they can do the business better. So I think Kevin would be that one. And then working with Leonard Skinner has been a ton of fun, just to see a different, I love music. So my proviso now is I only want to work on brands that I like or people that I love. Right. And that makes your job much easier. So.
And I sent them through WhatsApp.
Yeah, I'm just posting them. So the $25 goes to J Dripper 76. And the $50. Sorry, Stuart, that was a very good answer to a very good question. Sorry, I should have said that first. Apologies, cut straight across you. Oh my god, I don't know who this one is, but $50 goes to, and now I've got to type it out, Addicted to Placebos. There we go. That's a quality name. Don't know what more to say there. And the free jersey, and I think actually I was going to give it to this dude as well, because he asked a lot of good questions.
It's a lot. I could have probably picked another 4 questions, but I'm like 3 is probably good.
Yeah, the free jersey goes to Fred Gilbert. Well done, Fred. So, John, what's the email address?
Support at geekyjerseys.com.
That's the one you need to. I'll put that in there as well, because I always forget it. Because I don't email that.
There are a few other quick questions we can maybe get an answer to. Like, has anyone ever approached us to do a private run of jerseys, like for a movie production? I know back in the day we did one for, what was it, Splinter Cell for Ubisoft?
Yeah, we did that. That was long time ago.
Yeah, long time ago.
And I don't.
They're Montreal based, so it makes sense they would ask for a hockey.
Yeah,
jersey.
yeah. We I think that was just as the business changed from like rink gear into geeky jerseys. That was off the back of. I'm trying to think of another. There has been another one in the past as well. I would say maybe like the World of Tank stuff is an interesting one as well, where that's kind of limited runs at the moment to see, because it's not a very.
Did they approach?
Yeah, they came to us. They came to us. They came. That was off the back of one of the BLE conferences. It was one of the ones during COVID, so we didn't attend. But I got an email from the guy there who they'd been doing a collab with the World Hockey Championships, where they're based in Czech Republic and stuff. So he just saw it. He just saw it as an opportunity. He's like, this is perfect. This fits this, and we could do this kind of collabs and stuff. So that's still going. And they're one of the first ones. Some of Kevin's stuff where it's obviously a lot of stuff direct to consumer, but they're selling via their own channels as well. Like Kevin does with the through his stuff as well. So that was one.
I know, because I send the jerseys to the store every time. So
I'm
the jersey mule.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we used to do designs for small teams, like if they came in with their own art, and we did do like a Rohan Riders one, and it was such a good design. We did offer it on the website for a bit.
Yeah.
Is there a license you've tried multiple times to get, even though you've been turned down? I know there's ones we've tried multiple times to get. We got turned down. It just hasn't happened yet, but hopefully that one will. I don't know if there's anybody that's just turned us down outright.
There's emails we've sent to ask the questions.
That never get answered, but I wouldn't say that's
you usually get an answer saying no, it's all right, thanks. I think one of them I won't mention who it was. It was interesting that we emailed them. They said, "No, it's all right. We may cycle round to this another time." And then one of our fans, a stroke partner, someone we talk to and helps out and stuff, they caught up with them at a convention. They saw the jerseys. They were like, "Oh my god, this is amazing! Like, we need to have some of this." And we were like, "Well, we have spoken to you in the past, and you haven't bothered to contact us when you turned us down." And now they're like, "Oh my god, no, we want to be part of this. We want to do this." So yes, we have, but it's kind of it comes back round.
Well, I think we got connected from a post you guys did on one of Kevin's
Instagram
posts.
Yeah. So that I think we told the story before. That was it was on the back of He-Man coming out, wasn't it, on Netflix? And we had just done the Lords of Destruction jersey, and we were kind of like, Sean messaged me and said, "Can you Photoshop this jersey onto Kevin?" And I was like, "Yes, I can, but I'm not sure that would be the right thing to do." I said, "We can do it as a sticker over the top of him and be like, these two things go together," which is what we did. And that kind of just spiraled into conversation. So we got the Jordan and stuff and then through to yourself. And so that was, again, that was just a kind of, it was a punt into the wind that paid off because we know the two things within the same sphere. And, do you know what I mean? The two things work together. And it was just a matter of, sometimes that was a kind of, I say calculated risk. It wasn't a risk to a degree, but it was a chance opportunity to try and get conversations, which it did, and it worked out, and it's worked out for the best because like we've done tons of jerseys, they're great, and everyone's happy. And so, I think you can't do that. That lightning doesn't always strike twice in situations like that. You can't do that every time. But like someone also mentioned about, do we ever, like the suggestions people make on the fan group page, do we ever follow those up and try and get licenses? The answer to that is yes, we do. And some of the suggestions are excellent. But the way we have to look at it is like, right, that, and we've said this earlier on, like with the IP, it's like, how many jersey can we get out of that singular IP? If it's one thing and it's only got one jersey, the like we said, the minimum guarantee out and the stuff we have to pay outweighs the profit we're going to make off that jersey. So is it worth doing it just because we want to do it, or is it worth doing it financially for the business? And I think we've started to look at that a bit more, like some of the stuff we're looking at the moment. And Sean sent something through yesterday, didn't he, John? And we were going through that list again and going, actually, we would only get one jersey out of this. And is it worth? And
we've already done the one out of this.
Yeah, we've already done the one out of this one, so we're not going to get any more out of that. We could try American football jerseys or baseball jerseys because, again, the different design premise in terms of typography and things. But again, how much more can we milk out of that to make the business money, to make royalties for the licensor as well, because they obviously need to be paid their royalties and things. And so we kind of now try and review it on a jersey base, be like, right, so there's this one property, we can get at least 5 jerseys out of that, and that'll be over a period of time. I think one thing conversation we're having at the moment, I think there's at least 12, and that'll be at a period over 2 years, and that'll be like 3 jerseys every couple of months. And the email we got back the other day was like, can we supply 3 pieces of artwork every time we send stuff to be approved, so they can approve it all in one go, ready to go to the next one? So you have to look at it more from a business perspective. Is it going to generate? Because like again, that one jersey might not be.
I know that on that list we got yesterday, there's one jersey that I asked for.
Yeah, there's one jersey John asked for. That
one design. It only has one design, but I need to have it happen.
Yeah,
so.
John was like, it's John's wish list jersey that Sean is making happen for him. So.
One of the wish list jerseys, but it's definitely one we have access to make at this time. So, cool. 2 quick ones that I can answer. Is Thundercats IP too challenging to get? Yes, it's been a struggle. I think that's the reason it hasn't happened.
It's part of Warner's, isn't it? Thundercats, it's under the Warner banner.
I don't know who owns Thundercats, but I remember you tried a number of times and we just couldn't get that off the ground.
I think it's owned under Warner's. That came back okay because it's basically from one style guide that I took all the resources from.
And the last question I have, which I think is just going to be a legal one, is how about crowdfunding to buy a license? And I don't know what the legality of that is. Like, if we raise $25,000 to buy a license, like, I don't know what legality we have. Maybe Stuart can give a little input on that one. I don't know.
That's a tough one because what if you don't get the But if you don't get the license after you crowdfunded for it, where does the money
Can you
go?
not refund? I think you can refund, right? Like there are people who've done the crowdfunding and there's like, I don't need it anymore, so they refund it. I think it's
The problem
possible.
is if you went through and say, let's pick someone I don't work with. Let's say you want to get a WWE license, right? And then you crowdfunded it, but you're going to say WWE, but you have no rights to say WWE. So what's the crowd fund for? Unless you generically did a crowd fund.
Because you couldn't legally say on there that you're doing this to get a license or buy WWE, because that throws up all kinds of legal complications in terms of like you're stating you're going after business.
I'll give you again another real life example, something that I don't work with, but I had someone I knew wanted to do something with Ice Cube, but they didn't have the money to make the product, but they knew that they could do it if they got the money, and they were like, well, crowdfund it. And I said, it's never going to happen, because somebody the nature of Ice Cube is not going to want his name up on crowdfunding, right? Like, makes him look weak. Like, they're never going to prove it. So that's the other piece. So that would be a difficult one. It makes sense, but you'd have to crowdfund a generic amount of money and then promise, a jersey or something like that for. But I think it'd be more legally difficult for you guys than for anyone else.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be possible, but it's a good question for someone to ask.
So I think this is probably like the longest live stream we've ever done. So I think might as well wrap it up.
Nope, you did a 2.5 hour one with Don Stra.
Oh, did I? Was it? Yeah, but me and Don were nerding. Well, we're nerding out now, but me and Don were talking art just to ourselves. I forgot people were there watching. So we're going to do another live stream next week. Is it? We got it's like buses. It's like literally like London buses. They say like nothing happens for ages and 3 come at once. This will be the 3rd one in the space of a few weeks. But we're doing another one next week, and this will be a special one as well for those people that are still on. This will be a special one because we are talking to a cast member from Clerks 3. I'll leave it there. You can all speculate who we're going to talk to. It will be freaking awesome. And that's what we're doing next week. I think it's the 5th. Didn't the boss say?
I don't remember the exact date, but I think it's like within a week of this one.
Yeah. So like I said, 3 come at once. It looks like YouTube's just hung, so we'll just keep talking. It will catch up. We'll probably hung right at the point I said that we were talking to someone special. Yeah, so that's happening next week. So we'll put something out and let everyone know. But thanks very much, Stuart, for joining us today. I know it's probably taken a massive chunk out of your day, taken an hour and a half out of your day. But no, I really appreciate it. It's been super interesting, and the message we've seen on Facebook and that, everyone's been like super interested in what we've been talking about, and it gives people a little bit of insight.
And I got my free jersey already, so I'm good.
Yeah. So thanks very much for joining us, and we'll talk to everyone again soon. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.
See you guys.